The Squid Game guards may all wear masks, but their roles are far from the same. If there's one person who truly starts the Squid Game nightmare, it's the salesman. He isn't just a recruiter, he's the first test, the first temptation, the first step in a trap disguised as a choice. The salesman doesn't force anyone to play. He doesn't have to. His job is to spot the desperate, the ones who would take a beating for a few bills, the ones who see a business card with a vague promise and think, what do I have to lose? His role is pure psychological warfare. He exploits people at their lowest, knowing that the system they live in has already worn them down. And that's the brilliance of his position. He keeps his hands clean. No guns, no violence, just a smile and an offer. He lets people walk right into the fire themselves. By the time they realize what they've signed up for, it's too late. But here's where it gets interesting. The salesman isn't just some low-level worker. He has direct contact with the mastermind. In fact, before he was the smooth-talking recruiter, he was one of the guards. His loyalty was tested in the worst way, by forcing him to execute his own father. And when he passed that test, without hesitation, he earned his promotion. Not everyone can convince people to sign away their lives with nothing but a game of rock, paper, scissors. And make no mistake, he enjoys the thrill. Even in his free time, he plays twisted games with the poor, making them choose between food and a gamble just to watch their choices backfire. He thrives on power, but eventually his luck runs out. When Seong Gi-hun tracked him down, he found himself in a game he couldn't control, a final match of Russian roulette. For once, the salesman was the one taking the risk, and when he finally lost, he didn't get a second chance. 2. The VIPs represent the most grotesque and dehumanizing layer of the Squid Game hierarchy. Unlike the guards, workers, or even the frontman, they are not bound by any rules. They sit above it all, untouchable, wealthy, and entertained by the suffering of others. They are not just spectators, but the ones who finance the games, ensuring the cycle of death continues. Their presence exposes the true nature of the games. It was never about giving the desperate a second chance. It was about amusement for the elite, a high-stakes gambling ring where human lives were the chips. They are served by human furniture, people stripped of their humanity, reduced to objects. Slightly above them are the masked waiters, whose only purpose is to obey without question. Even the front man, the enforcer of the games, is ultimately a servant to their demand. 3. Frontman is the second most powerful figure in the Squid Game, controlling everything beneath him. He isn't just a faceless enforcer, he is the one who ensures the games run exactly as intended. From his surveillance room, he watches every contestant, every guard, every rule being followed or broken. He doesn't just enforce the system, he is the system. But unlike the masked managers and soldiers who blindly obey, the frontman wasn't always on this side of the game. He once stood where the players you will now stand. A former winner who fought his way through the brutal competition and emerged victorious. But his reasons for joining were far from greed. His wife had been diagnosed with a rare illness, one that required a liver transplant. At the same time, they found out she was pregnant. Doctors advised terminating the pregnancy, but she refused, choosing to risk her life instead. As her condition worsened, the cost of treatment grew. He borrowed money, drained his savings, and even took loans from dangerous people. But none of it was enough. His police career collapsed when his superiors mistook his desperate borrowing for corruption, leaving him unemployed, drowning in debt, and out of options. The Squid Game was his last chance, and he won. But something changed in him. Unlike most winners who vanished after their victory, he stayed. He saw something in the games: order, control, a brutal but fair system in a world that had none. He believed in what the games stood for, convinced that until the world changed, this was the only way. He didn't just accept his new role, he embraced it. However, that belief didn't last forever. In Season 2, everything he built began to crack. When he learned that Gi-hun had returned to the games, he did something no one expected. He re-entered as a contestant, hiding under the name Young Il. He went back not just to play, but to test Gi-hun, to challenge his hope with his own hardened view of the world. And while he was the pretend player in Season 2, his role of a frontman was filled by a temporary frontman. Unlike the other guards, his uniform is inverted. But his role isn't just about enforcing rules, he bends them for his own gain. Of all the high-ranking figures in the game, he is by far the most corrupt. Fourth, the officer is the mastermind behind the secret organ trade within the games. While others follow orders, he builds his own empire in the shadows, profiting from the dead contestants in ways even the frontman wouldn't allow. When number 11, a soldier tasked with eliminating players, tried to interfere with his illegal operations, he shut her down effortlessly. And their history goes back 7 years. Number 11, once a desperate refugee from North Korea, had crossed paths with him in a hospital. She was weak, vulnerable, and searching for any chance at survival. The officer took advantage of that, offering her a position as a guard. But it wasn't kindness that motivated him. He saw an opportunity. In a way, he is a twisted mix of the frontman and the salesman. Like the frontman, he has power over the games. Like the salesman, he manipulates the desperate, presenting his schemes as a way out. For number 11, that meant exploiting her pain. She had left her 1-year-old child behind in North Korea, and she would do anything to get them back. The officer knew this and used it against her, pulling her deeper into his corruption. 5. At the top of the Squid Game's masked enforcers are the managers, easily recognized by the square on their masks. They don't carry the most firepower, nor do they handle the grunt work. Instead, they are the ones in control, overseeing both the soldiers and workers to ensure the games run exactly as planned. Every task, every elimination, every detail, nothing happens without their approval. They give the orders, deliver the announcements, and act as the link between the frontman and the lower ranks. While they only carry a revolver, it's their presence, not their weapon, that keeps the system running. They decide which workers are slacking off, which guards are stepping out of line, and who needs to be dealt with. Because of their high rank, managers enjoy freedoms the other guards don't. They can speak without permission, issue commands, and even interact with contestants when necessary. But this authority comes with its own dangers. Unlike the faceless soldiers who blend into the system, managers are more exposed. They are expected to keep everything in order, and if they fail, they are held accountable, sometimes with their lives. One example of this brutal reality came during the Sugar Honeycomb game. A manager overseeing the workers noticed something was off with player 29 and called for a meeting after the round. But before that could happen, chaos broke out. A desperate contestant, player 119, grabbed a soldier's weapon and forced the manager to remove his mask. That single moment sealed his fate. The frontman arrived shortly after, and despite the manager's rank, his punishment was swift execution for breaking the rule of anonymity. If the managers keep the Squid Game running behind the scenes, the soldiers make sure it stays under control by force, if necessary. 6th, marked by a triangle on their masks, these guards rank above the workers, armed with real power and deadly authority. Their job? Enforce the rules, eliminate threats, maintain order at all costs. Unlike the workers, these guards don't just clean up after the bloodshed, they create it. Every elimination, every punishment, and every moment of terror is carried out under their watch. If a player fails a game, a soldier ensures there are no second chances. If someone steps out of line, they are met with swift and brutal consequences. Their presence alone is enough to keep contestants in check, knowing that one wrong move could be their last. But these enforcers are not just executioners. They are also protectors. When fights break out among the players, the soldiers don't step in to break them up right away. Instead, they let the chaos unfold just enough to remind everyone of the stakes, only intervening when it threatens the integrity of the game or risks exposing their superiors. After all, Squid Game is a controlled nightmare, and losing control is not an option. This control extends beyond just following orders. Some soldiers twist the rules for their own gain, taking part in a hidden black market that operates within the games. Organ harvesting becomes a side business for a select few, secretly keeping contestants alive, not to save them, but to strip them of something even more valuable before disposing of them. Not all guards participate, but those who do turn the brutality of the games into personal profit. Yet even among these ruthless enforcers, there are those who believe in the rules they uphold. Number 11, a soldier dedicated to carrying out her role without corruption, fought back against those exploiting the contestants for organ sales. To her, and many like her, the games were about something bigger than greed. The guards were told they were releasing the contestants from their suffering, justifying every execution as a mercy rather than a punishment. They may look like enforcers, but the lowest-ranking pink guards, marked by a simple circle on their masks, are more like the game's invisible workforce. They don't make decisions. They don't give orders. They don't even have weapons. Yet, without them, Squid Game wouldn't function at all. These workers are everywhere, yet completely unnoticed. They prepare the games, clean the messes, and handle the grim reality of what happens to eliminated players. When a contestant falls, it's these workers who collect the bodies, transport them, and dispose of them without hesitation. They serve food, repair damage, and maintain the eerie perfection of the games. In a way, they are like the contestants themselves, just following orders, trapped in a system with no way out. But while the contestants have the illusion of choice, these workers have none. Their lives are ruled by strict orders. They cannot speak unless given permission. They cannot move freely. They cannot remove their masks outside their dorms. And if they break any of these rules, the punishment is immediate and final. They are as replaceable as the players they cremate. What makes their position even more unsettling is the way the system erases their identity. With their faces hidden and their voices silenced, they are reduced to nothing more than moving parts of the game. They aren't treated as individuals, just faceless tools keeping the machine running. It's a design that makes it easy for the higher-ups and even the workers themselves to justify their actions. After all, it's not their job to question, it's their job to obey. Yet, even in this rigid system, corruption seeps through. Some workers break the rules, forming secret alliances with the higher-order pink guards, like the guards who conspired with a contestant to smuggle organs. But the true architect of it all, 8, is the host. Known as Player 001, O Il Nam, he is the highest-ranking figure in the hierarchy, the very mind behind the games. A man of immense wealth, Il Nam had grown numb to life. So he created a system where others would fight for survival, allowing him to experience the thrill he had long lost. But watching wasn't enough. He wanted to feel the stakes himself. So he disguised himself as a contestant, playing alongside those he had doomed. For 36 years, the Squid Game operated under his rule. Even after a financial crisis shook the country, the games continued. Ilnam's death might have seemed like the end of it all, but the damage was already done. He spent his final moments gambling, not just with his own life, but with the fate of others. His legacy of cruelty did not die with him. It lived on in the system he created. And that's every guard in the Squid Game hierarchy, each one playing their part in the deadly system. See you in the next video.